It was actually raining that morning, so we weren't out there till about noon. Things were running smooth.
I just returned from Baltimore, Maryland, where I did my fellowship in hand and microvascular surgery at the Curtis National Hand Center. And I was on call the first weekend that I had started.
Once we bring the crop or the silage in that's all chopped up, we dump it from our wagon has a conveyor belt in it, and it basically pulls it out, dumps it into another machine that grinds it even more fine and shoots it up. This gets sucked up through about a 12-inch wide aluminum piping that goes over the side of the harvest store where they store the feed. The blower was clogged, so we unclogged it. We had to take everything apart, and as the PTO was winding down, I'm the young guy, so they have me go to the top of the harvester to make sure that the top chute that goes over the top isn't clogged. So I got the ladder, and upon handing the ladder through to them, kind of looked down to make sure I wasn't going to catch my foot on anything. And just while I was looking, at the same time, it all just kind of happened real quick. I was tripping and then put my hand down, just a natural instinct of falling. When it happened, it was pretty surreal. But you know, I just had to collect myself and kind of really assess what was going on. We all acted so quick, we didn't really get to see kind of how and assess what did it. So we got it wrapped up in towels and got water, got the fingers on ice immediately because we were by my sister's house. Had we not, I don't think any of this would be possible. Jumped into my boss's truck, and then he had to drive me to the hospital in Jacksonville.
When I got the initial call from Jacksonville Memorial Hospital, the emergency department physician sent me photographs of what his injury was. The fingers were very mangled, but they were all amputated as one piece. I immediately started planning what I was going to be able to offer for him and the ways that I could get him to restore normal anatomy and normal function. I told them that time is of the essence. I had him life flighted over to Springfield with the amputated piece on ice because I wanted it to be well preserved for any microsurgical intervention.
I remember the helicopter ride. I was talking to him, just normally, having a normal conversation, and it felt like a long dang helicopter ride. At that point, probably an hour and a half after the accident.
And obviously it was a very devastating injury, and it's a very difficult thing for a patient to be able to take in that much information when they're undergoing something as devastating as he did. But fortunately he was there with his sister and his mother, who were both able to understand what I was telling them and knew that there was a good possibility that he might wake up from surgery with his fingers on his other side, all with the goal of preserving them for later replantation.
I vaguely remember Tim before the surgery. I just remember he said they were going to take good care of me.
I was very happy with how the first surgery went. We were able to repair all of the structures within the hand. I tagged everything, including the tendons, the nerves, for later identification down in subsequent surgeries. In hand surgery, you always have to be thinking of what is your next step, and that's exactly what I did. With ectopic banking, I'm always thinking about what is the next thing that I can offer him in order to get him to where he and I both want him to end up.
I don't have feeling in it as far as, touch or heat, pretty much anything, because it's just secured into the bone. The nerves aren't attached yet, so I can feel it sometimes when the doctor comes in to bend my knuckles. They bend the hand to keep it supple or movable because they don't want the joints to get too stiff, and that's just makes it harder for me to start bending my fingers as soon as possible. He comes in here and gives her a couple good twists, and usually feel that a little bit in my radius bone just because you feel the pressure. It doesn't last too long, and other than that, it's not bad.
He had some tissue on his thumb that was devitalized and that was in need of partial amputation of the tip of the thumb. And I had previously done coverage of the amputation site with a free flap from the groin. So I planned to do an amputation of the portion of the thumb, rotate that flap to cover the tip of the thumb, as well as to line the first web space so that he could get his thumb out for gripping items. And then I prepared the metacarpal bones for osteosynthesis, for repair of the bone, and then went over to the other side. I raised the fingers that I previously had ectopically banked. I raised them with some additional skin based off of the radial artery, and then I dissected back to the radial artery and lifted the fingers based off of that. When we moved the hand over to the other side, we had to hook it up with microsurgery. We use a microscope in the operating room that can zoom in to 30 times what we can see. We use a small thread the size of a hair to perform the anastomosis of the blood vessel in order to give the hand and fingers blood supply when we move it over to the other side. I designed the flap in order to move the fingers over. I took additional skin from the dorsal part of the forearm and the volar part of the wrist. This additional skin gave me the ability to, when I moved the fingers over, to get them into a good position that will allow him to flex and extend the fingers, and to close the wound primarily without needing any other tissue in order to do so. Allowing the fingers to sit over on the forearm for the 6 weeks gave me the ability for blood vessel ingrowth into the fingers in order to do that. My plan after that is to just allow the soft tissue to heal and allow the bones to heal, have him work on a finger range of motion, which will require a lot of hand therapy in order to do that. Fortunately, we have very well-trained hand therapists here in our office that will be able to work with him on a weekly basis, multiple times a week, in order to maintain his joints in a supple condition for later reconstruction as needed. Ben will need future surgeries down the line. He will need reconstruction of the nerves. It would have been too risky to do this at the time of this last operation, and my main goal for that would be that his fingers were alive and healing. So I will plan to take him back to surgery at a later time to do reconstruction of the nerves and reinsertion of a few of the tendons. But in the meantime, with the goal of keeping his joints supple, the next mainstay of his treatment will be a lot of hand therapy in order to get to where he and I want him to be. My hopes for Ben are to regain function, to regain the dexterity of his fingers, and sensation, which is the primary thing that a prosthetic will not be able to give you.
What I'm looking forward to doing most when I get out of here is getting back to my normal routine. Can't believe I'd ever complain. I pray that I won't ever again, just the small things. Getting out, being able to feed my cattle and water them, not having to, seeing it more as a get to, because that's, it can probably change really very, very fast.